It's official. Bones the old man, it's official.
What's that? No shave September?
No, it's officially the month of Tishri. And we have personal intel on this. We have boots on the ground, so to speak. Our own brother, Pastor Jimmy James at James Smith, is over in Israel right now. And last night, he witnessed at sunset the first sliver of the crescent of the new moon, officially starting at sunset the first day of trumpets. So until sunset again in Israel, it is the first day. And as we know, trumpets is a 2-day feast. Shing! Let's review the fall feast. The fall feasts start out with 2 days that are known as one long day. So the Feast of Trumpets actually goes for 48 hours, but it's known as one long day. And that is to make sure that after they witness it and they start lighting the fires, that all of the Middle East can get the message and celebrate it together so everybody starts the year correctly. Then we enter into the 7 days of awe, which are a dress rehearsal of the 7-year tribulation, in the which the books of life and death and in between are opened, and people's lives are examined before the throne of God. And on the 10th day of Tishri, known as Yom Kippur, which we also know as Yom Kippur, but more commonly known as the Day of Atonement, what is it? It's Judgment Day. And after the 7 days, which the 7-year tribulation will be played out, the books of life and death and in between, there will be nobody else in between. They will either be in the books of life or in the books of death. And the books will be shut on Yom Kippur, and then judgment is meted out. So it is pretty well known in Scripture that this is the day Jesus returns. We're going to talk about this and the connection with the Jubilee year and moving trumpets to the Day of Atonement. And so the last trump actually occurring on Yom Kippur and fulfilling trumpets and atonement simultaneously. And then we're up in heaven for 7 plus, and we'll explain that more, tabernacling in a temporary dwelling place. And while people on earth, many running to and fro and trying to escape the sudden destruction and hailstones of coals of fire, will also be doing a temporary dwelling. So I believe we are exactly right on track for something that, for a while, I've been wanting to say, well, it's absolutely Trumps, but I couldn't, because I have a strong feeling now that we understand these numbers that we are looking at a Jubilee, and I'm going to prove it to you, okay? So, after the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, which is a 7-day feast, it'll start on the 15th at the full moon, goes to the 21st, which is known as Hoshana Rabbah. Then afterwards, there's a last great day, an 8th day, known as Shemini Atzeret. So Shemini means 8, and Atzeret means tarry, or hang around a little bit more. And as you know, we have been teaching for quite a while that since David ruled over Judah, which means praise, in Hebron, which has the meaning of heaven and close association, he ruled over them for 7 years and 6 months, very specifically. And Solomon, Shalom man, built the temple of God, and it took 7 years and 6 months. That we believe that our time personal with Jesus and the bride, and of course the bridesmaid, the whole church, will be 7 years and 6 months before he officially becomes married to or the lead over all of Israel. So that fits with that timing. And again, down on earth, they're going through the same thing. So, temporary dwelling place. But the end of Sukkot ends with, again, the 21st day is known as Hoshana Rabbah, then Shemini Atzeret, then tied to Shemini Atzeret, an 8th and 9th day is known as Simchat Torah. And Simchat Torah means return to Torah and start over all the Torah portions. So for those of you that don't know, they were instructed all throughout the year, all throughout all the feasts, to read certain Torah portions on certain days. And so at the end of the fall feast, then they started over again. But those 2 days, the 8th and 9th day, are known as one long day. So the fall feasts start with 2 days that are one long day, and they'll end with 2 days that are one long day. So that's very unique in God's economy, and the fact that they're tied together like that and kind of bookend, I think there's significance to it, and I think that'll play out more that we understand it in these end times. Now, for one, if we look at the Feast of Trumpets in 2017 started our journey, and if we've been in this kind of continual trumpet warning time, which we have, you could definitely say this has been one long day or one long watch. And of course, at the end, when Jesus wraps everything up, I taught about this a few times ago, Shemini Atzeret has the gematria value of 1170. And we know the 117 code back from He Shall Divide and Resurrection Day, where he reverses the curse and dividing through the waters and separating the languages at the Tower of Babel, and on and on and on. We know that the flood started on a 117 in the scripture, and is talked about in Hebrews as 711. Okay? I may have digressed a bit on that, but anyways, we know these numbers are very important, and this is something I want to bring up right now. Mr. Bones, if you could scoot over a bit.
Oh, don't mind me.
Okay. And I'm going to zoom the camera in. Okay, we'll start out super close, and I want you to pay attention. These are this is Haman and his 10 sons being hung on the gallows that he built, and these are the sons' names. And over here is the word and then another son and another son, like that. So a jot and a tittle is a smaller letter or a bigger letter, or sometimes the pronunciation marks or punctuation marks. So I want you to see there, this is a Tav and a Shin and a Zayin, and then this is a Vav. Okay? All right, Shing. So this is going to give us great confidence on where we are right now. So we know that it is the Hebrew year 5782, and with today, maybe even up till the Day of Atonement, it is going to turn into 5783. 5782, 5783. And we know if we add the 210 missing years to this, it'll bring us to 5993, giving us 7 more years until the year 6000. So we're wondering, well, which one is God counting? Is he counting the 210? How do we know our Jubilees? Well, here's our proof, okay? So in this prophecy of Esther, which we've recommended many times, and there's a video about it. If you haven't seen it, here it is. And in that prophecy, a man rises up with a plan to extinguish all the Jews, to erase Israel. And he has 10 sons. His plan is foiled by Esther, and he's hung on the gallows that he had set for his Jewish hated rival, Mordecai. And not only is he hung on it, but his 10 sons are hung on it. Then the king asks Esther, is there anything else I can give you? She says, if it would please the king, would you hang Haman's 10 sons on the gallows tomorrow? But the Hebrew word tomorrow means in the future. And these sons were already hung. So, as it would be in their names, it says the letter Tav, which is 400, the letter Shin, which is 300, the letter Zayin, which is 7. And then there's a very large Vav, representing, of course, the number 6, but the 6th century would equate to the number 5,000. So we have 5,000, and 400, 307 is 5707. And which equated to the Gregorian year 1946 and 47. But when the trial was held, it was in 1946, and it was the year 5706. But by this prophecy, we know both that God is recognizing this Hebrew year and their count is correct, but also that he is specifically recognizing that Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets, the first day of Tishri, is the beginning of the year that he is recognizing. Because the trial was in 1946 in the Hebrew year 5706, but because of extensions and amnesty, the actual execution date was not until 22 days into the year 5707. So on Shemini Atzeret in 5707 is when they were actually hung. So we know he is recognizing that year. So that means that we know not only is he recognizing the year 5782, but he recognizes the change happens here, not at Nisan. In case some of you were wondering about that. Okay, so we know for sure this is happening right now. Okay, now if it's a true Jubilee, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, then this declaration would actually happen on the 10th day, which again is we're looking at October 5, 6, 7. Okay, starting a little bit 5 and going a little bit into October 7th is going to be our true Yom Kippur. Okay, now quick couple of things. Number 1, 83 means unripe figs. Okay, fig tree generation, the unripe figs. Jeremiah, what do you see? Unripe figs. Amos, what do you see? Unripe figs. The cursed fig tree by Jesus, they weren't ready. There was no figs. This is the time, this year that's turning into is the year of the unripe figs, the fig tree generation, which is all still perfectly in play. Okay? And quick note. So this happened, again, this was Shemini Atzeret, but the original story happened at Purim. So the enemy of Israel was hung at Purim, and his 10 henchmen hung at Purim. Then, at the Nuremberg trials, when they were hung, the last Nazi that got hung was Julius Streicher, and he went up the 13 steps to the gallows, and he turned wild-eyed and looked at the crowd and said, Purim Fest 46. So he tied that to Purim Fest. So the next group that we're trying to annihilate, the first group killed at Purim. The next group killed about Purim. Okay? And then Joseph Stalin has after 40 years, bragging, they fooled you, there is no God. And the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. But God was watching his life. And exactly 40 years from when he said that, represent Psalm 14. Going all the way 40 years is Psalm 53. So 1914 to 1953. And he has a massive stroke on the first day of Purim. And you know, Purim is a couple of days, 2 to 3 actually, from the story of Esther. And he dies right afterwards. So is God keeping track of his times, his years exactly, and his feasts? All 3 of the major players that were trying to destroy Israel are killed according to Purim. Okay? All right? Now, 210 years to this, 5993. 7 years later with the tribulation, and it's going to be the year 6000, which for the Hebrew year, it'll be 5789. Okay? So, or 5790 as it bleeds over into that. So I think that's really exciting because when that kind of reoccurred to me, I'm like, okay, any doubts, any question that maybe, you know, he's looking at it like this or that or the other, this is a solid proof that we can stand on. Biblical proof, biblical prophecy. Again, it just solidifies, yes, this is the year. All right, Bonesy, you ready to crunch some numbers?
Oh, yay, math.
Yes, math. We're going to keep it real simple. All right, we're going to go over the years that we're in and do the simple math like Pastor Mark Biltz showed us, and also Gary at unsealed.org. And I just want you to again grasp what we now know about the 50-year count. Okay, so 5, 7, 8, 2. We know this is the 7th year, a Shemitah year, and that the next year is going to be a 50th year because it is divisible by 49. And that gives us 118. That's a very significant number. So our previous time was 5733, representing the years 1972 and 73. This is 2223. Divided by 49 equals 117. Now this is the date of the Yom Kippur War. Very significant that the Lord would highlight in the Torah, in the 5733rd verse, about Yom Kippur and the day of release, the Shemitah, the Jubilee. Then we go back, the Jubilee before this, and it would be 5684 divided by 49 equals 116. So, in the 19th century, where the Lord, when he was asked on the Mount of Olives, what will the end be like, and you're coming to gather us, and the end of the world, and the whole thing, he brings them right forward and describes the 19th century. We've gone over many times the prophecy in the Psalms, but look at the numbers that he brought them to. The 116th Jubilee, the 117th Jubilee, the 118th. Separation, and new beginning. So again, we know because of Esther, he recognizes the current count of 5707 was on point and started at the fall feast. So that means these numbers, because they're divisible by 49. Now, I know a lot of people are still freaking out on how we count this, but it's straight from the Levitical law, and I'll go over it in a minute. But you got your 7 complete Sabbaths, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And at that 7th, 7, you then declare the next year the Jubilee. But you keep counting the 7. So the first year of the next 49 is also the 50th. Okay? And then we count 7 more Sabbaths. And then the next year, it applies to both the first year of the next Shemitah, the first year of the next Jubilee, but it's also the 50th hallowed year. So let's go to Leviticus. All right, Leviticus 25. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep Sabbath unto the Lord. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field, nor prune thy vineyard. That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes thereof of the vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land. And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, for thee, and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for the stranger that sojourneth with thee, and for thy cattle, and for the beast, and for thy land, shall all the increase thereof be for meat. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7, and the space of the 7th Sabbath of years shall be for thee 49 years. So it's real clear. You count 7 Sabbaths, 49 years, and then we're going to declare the Jubilee. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day, in the 7th month, in the day of atonement, shall you make the trumpet sound throughout your land. So we start the 50th year, which you would think on Rosh Hashanah, but when it's a Jubilee year, we're going to wait till Yom Kippur, the 10th day of the 7th month. Then ye shall make the trumpet to sound throughout all your land. And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. Ye shall neither sow nor reap that which groweth of its own self, nor gather the grapes of the vine undressed. For it is a Jubilee, it shall be holy unto you. Ye shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of the Jubilee, ye shall return every man unto his possession. So, after the 7 complete Sabbaths, now we are going to proclaim the first year of the next 49 years, the first year of the next 7 Sabbaths, first year of the next Shemitah is also the 50th year. Now I'm going to show you how God explains that that's how he looks at it coming up next. But it says, in the year of Jubilee, you shall return every man to his possession. That is a rapture type scenario that God would be following his law in doing that. Okay? And again, we know God is recognizing these years, and we know that these years are 49 apart, so so the Jubilee years then would be 5, 7, 8, 3. I'm going to put a J by that. And 5, 7, 3, 4. And 5, 6, 8, 5. Okay? So again, to get the Jubilee count, you count the year before the 7th Sabbath, the 7th 7, and divide that by, if that's divisible by 49, then you know that the following year is the Jubilee. But again, that gets rolled into the count, and here's the proof. Now go to Leviticus 25, same chapter, just jump over. Let's start at verse 18. Wherefore, ye shall do my statutes and keep my judgments, and do them, and ye shall dwell in the land safely. And the land shall yield her fruit, and ye shall eat your fill, and dwell therein safely. And if you shall say, what shall we eat in the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow, nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth for thee for 3 years. And ye shall sow in the 8th year, and eat yet of the old fruit until the 9th year. 8th and 9th year, what are those? Until her fruits come in, and ye shall eat of the old store. So in the Jubilee year, it's a total different set of rules. Let's draw it out and see what it looks like. Okay, so we're going to show the final Shemitah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So this is also, this 7 is also the, let's do this color. The 49th year, making this next first year of the 49, the 50th year. But in Leviticus 25, 18 through 22, it says the 7th, 8th, and 9th year. So now, in a normal Shemitah year, you never sow either or reap. You let the land rest. So that's already a rest day. But now on a Jubilee, we are now proclaiming rest also on this 50th year. So it's a major seventh Sabbath rest. So he says he's going to command his blessing for 1, 2, 3 years. Which is also 6, 7, 8, and 9. So, now do you see when God is saying that you count 49 years and then proclaim the next one, the 50th year? It's not an extra year. He's calling this Shemitah year the 50th year, the 1st year, the 2nd year, and the 8th year, all at once. Okay? And so he's going to say, in a normal Shemitah, you're going to have a blessing the 6th year, and it's going to be provided in the 7th year. And then you start sowing again in the 1st year. But in a Shemitah, there's going to be extra rest. And you start planting at the end of the 8th, but you're still eating the old for 3 years that came from what was sown on the 6th year. Okay? So, all that to say, we know that counting the Shemitah, you count by 49s. You do the math by 49. And if we look at, actually, I'll just show this with little calculator pictures, but the year equating to 2017, when Trump proclaimed that Jerusalem was actually Israel's city and he's going to move his embassy, okay? Nothing really big happened that year. There was not some big release or big people going back or anything, but that would have been the year 5777, making, so if we were going to say that was a Jubilee, that makes 5776 the year that should be divisible by 49. It is not. If we try to divide it by 7, it is not, because it's not even a Shemitah year. So 2017, when Trump did that, did not fulfill a Shemitah or a Jubilee. Go back to 1967. That would be the year 5727. The year before would have been the 7th Shemitah if it was a Jubilee. But if we divide 5726 by 49, doesn't work. If you divide it by 7, it's 818. So it was a Shemitah, which would qualify for the year of release, correct? Then we go back to 1917 when General Allenby came in and made proclamation that he took over Jerusalem from the Ottomans. Okay, now you remember, Lord Rothschild was involved in this, and it became no man's land. So again, why do we think that's a Jubilee when the Jews didn't get anything from that? You know, it was a Jubilee period of time, and I'm the biggest fan of the prophecy of Judah ben Samuel, where he prophesied 10 Jubilees. But if he's prophesying a Jubilee, it could be a 50-year period. It doesn't mean he never said in the year of the Jubilee of the release is when these things would happen. Just how many Jubilees would transpire, which it was still accurate. But in the year 1917, which would be 5678, 5678. Okay, the year before would be 5677 divided by 49, doesn't work out. Divided by 7, it's 811. So it was a Shemitah, and for it to be 811, when Allenby takes the land away from the Ottomans, and then we are looking at the Jubilee of 118. That is very significant. And if you remember a few episodes past, let me create some more space. I was kind of fooling around with the numbers but with the flood. So, from the flood, I think I can make this fit. Let me erase this one. And this. Okay. So, from 5782 minus the flood year was 16. Actually, the flood year was 1656. It was in the middle of a Shemitah, the middle of a Shemitah cycle. So the beginning of the Shemitah would have been 1652. So if you subtract that, that's 4,130 years divided by a half a Shemitah, 3.5, equals 1180. The fact that these 118s and the big 117 codes are matching up with between the flood and now, and you know, when you add a 0, it's like multiplying the significance of it. So if we believe 117 being the separation and 118 is the exact middle chapter of the Bible, Psalms 118, and that's where Israel proclaims the name of the Lord, recognizing Jesus. So it's an ultimate division and new beginning. And so from now, starting the tribulation and from the flood, they are related mathematically. Okay? And then I already got that one. One other thing, 1652. Again, that would have been the first year of the Shemitah of the flood, which was in 1656. year 1. Okay? 1652 divided by 14. Or double the amount of time, because we're dealing with halves. So instead of dividing by 7, we're dealing by double that to get 14. That is 118. Okay, so some of you might think that's a little out there, but as I say, math can't lie. So if we have the flood tied to 118, 1180, and we're in a 50th year. Again, have I made this clear? It doesn't matter if this is the official Jubilee of Israel as God's counting from other things. We do know he recognizes this is the year. This turning over, starting tomorrow, is the 5783, is a 50th year. Okay, is it the official only Jubilee that he's counting? Is it the Jubilee recognizing Israel? Probably not. Probably that will tie in with the 6,000th year, or after he's been with them for 7 years after the tribulation. Something like that will tie in with their Jubilee. But this is a Jubilee. This is a 50th year that we are entering in, and it's tied to 118, 1180, 118 with the flood. So I just wanted to give that a little bit of encouragement. And Mr. Bones, you know what this means, don't you? Oh boy, here it comes. And we're going to blow again tomorrow. How'd you like that? Oh, that was delicious. And then we're going to save the ultimate last trump for Yom Kippur. All right, we'll see you then. I might come back with a few tidbits if I get them. Mr. Bones, you got anything else? Keep looking up. Your redemption draws nigh.